It's one of the most magical things I've ever been lucky enough to capture on film, even though it was a mistake. First day of filming Miles drumming. Up to that moment, I was really sort of worried whether he had it in him to, I knew he had it in him to act the hell out of that part. But I'm a drummer myself, so I had my eyes on his drumming skills, which were not top-notch at the beginning of prep. And I was kind of, ready to use doubles and whatnot. But this first shot, it's important to sort of establish that your actor is the drummer of the film right away. So that was part of the idea of having it be wide and not cutting it up. Making it clear we're not cheating. A lot of pressure was on him, and I remember we started filming it, and he started drumming away, and it was brilliant and completely convincing. Again, to me, a drummer, so I sort of knew it would be convincing to others. I just remember it was a blissful moment. It did exactly the trick. It established that that's Miles drumming. There's a shot I particularly love that doesn't seem like a very complicated shot, but it's Emma is coming into their apartment. Ryan's already playing at the piano. She sets her coat down. Ryan starts singing City of Stars, and Emma comes to join him. And it's all just this oneer, but it's a very kind of simple oneer. We initially were trying to map it out with a mini crane inside. It had a little more complexity to it, and it just wasn't feeling spontaneous enough. It's like the technique of the camera that I had sort of engineered was getting in the way of this sort of what should be a simple, genuine, kind of raw moment between them, and they're singing live, and the piano is live, and so it needed to have a documentary kind of element to it, and I was screwing it up. So after a bunch of takes, we sort of realized we had to change things up, and we wound up getting the crane out, put it on Steadicam, I believe, and just sort of simplified the shot a great deal, and it just became beautiful. It became about the actors, not about the camera. And when you have actors of Ryan and Emma's level, you can do that. You get something even more glorious out of it. And that's, to me, that's one of the most luminous moments just in either of their performances in that film, because you really feel them as the human beings coming through the song, and in all their fragility and their nervousness, and the sort of cracked voices and the laugh between the lines, and those kind of things where, it feels like real love and it hasn't been gussied up too much. This is a cheat, because the shot did not wind up in the movie for reasons that will become very obvious, but it's one of the most magical things I've ever been lucky enough to capture on film, even though it was a mistake and we couldn't use it. We're shooting the moon, and we're shooting on a rock quarry outside Atlanta at night with a single sort of big light out in the distance illuminating it. For the hard light, black sky, rock quarry with Nathan Crowley's production team. They built the LEM, but we have the actors coming down, and we're shooting it on IMAX. My first time ever shooting IMAX, so that was already sort of a pinch me moment. And you're on this incredible set, and suddenly I start to notice something in the air, and it's snow. And it's this incredible shot where, perfectly backlit, you're on what really looked in camera already exactly like the moon. This is how I know they did fake it, by the way. And it looks, so eerily right, what you're getting in the camera, and you've got the astronaut coming down the LEM ladder, and there's this mysterious snowfall all around, and immediately it was that kind of thing, as weird as a filmmaker, where you're like, oh, like, we can't use that, cut, everyone go home, because in fact it wound up being the beginning of the biggest snowstorm in Atlanta history, I'm told, so our set had to shut down for a while. The LEM got frozen, everything, stopped looking like the moon. But for that one fleeting moment on screen, I mean, it's just something so poetic and beautiful and weird and mysterious and not right and yet perfectly right. I wish I could use it. I'll have to find some way to co-opt it and use it somewhere. It would have been a problem if we used it in the film, but, maybe one day I'll have the balls to use it. It's the best thing I've ever shot. Can't use it, isn't that? That's life. A big sort of complicated kind of oneer that we designed to sort of introduce the audience to the world of this party. It was too small a space, this tight space. We shot in the lobby of the Ace Theater, incredible 1920s building in downtown LA. Normally you would do this shot with a crane. Didn't have the room to have a crane in this room, so we had to do it on a thing called a spider cam. Essentially you sort of have a wire going across the set from point A to point B, the camera glides along that wire, and then actually there's a sort of second wire that allows it to glide back down, and then we sort of did a stitch so that the camera could then seamlessly blend to a Steadicam shot that takes you through. But even just getting that spider cam part, I mean, I think it took about a day, you know. It was tricky because I wanted the camera to sort of travel through the crowd as they're dancing, but it's traveling fast. So if you're not careful, you're gonna hurt someone pretty seriously with, you know, this big 35mm camera body. So having to kind of choreograph it and first rehearse it a bunch at slow speed, and then you slowly start speeding it up, and finally you get it to speed, and making sure that every element of it, foreground, background, was timed right, and you got stunts, you got people falling off balconies, simulated sex going on, you've got music, dancing, and just general extras milling about, and you're trying to fill the frame and make it feel dense. It was, you know, one of those shots where you sort of knock your head against the wall for a long time because it feels like it'll never quite be right, and finally, you know, got it, and yeah, felt good to get it. I'd say the shot that very slowly, almost seamlessly pushes in on Al Pacino sitting in an armchair early on in The Godfather, when we see before our eyes Michael Corleone turn from sweet college kid to the potential killer he's becoming. That's when he's pitching the idea of meeting Sollozzo in the restaurant and killing him and McCluskey. It's such a subtle camera move, and yet you feel by the end of the shot, you almost don't realize what happened. You're like, oh, we're close on him now. We were wide. He was one of several people milling about this sort of office, and now it's just him. And it's the moment when he becomes the lead of the movie. And it's this brilliant thing. How brilliant for a camera move to reflect a narrative, you know, bait and switch, where we thought we were in to see a movie starring Marlon Brando, where The Godfather was the lead, and right at that moment you realize, oh no, Al Pacino's the lead. It's Michael Corleone's story, and that's just genius.